Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving deep into the world of colorectal cancer.
Oh, great.
Yeah. We asked you guys to send in excerpts from pasted text,
Okay.
and we're going to be using that as the source for today.
That sounds good.
So, to kick things off, colorectal cancers are the 3-year most common cancers diagnosed
Wow.
in both men and women in the U.S.
Yeah, that's pretty striking.
Pretty crazy, right? That's huge.
It really is. And, when consider just how many cases are diagnosed each year,
Yeah,
it's really important that we're doing this deep dive today.
totally.
In 2016 alone, there were almost 95,000 cases of colon cancer
Oh, wow.
and close to 40,000 cases of rectal cancer
Gosh.
diagnosed just in the U.S.
Yeah. It's almost like this silent epidemic that we don't talk about enough.
It is.
But, the good news is that survival rates are improving,
That's right.
especially when we catch it early.
Absolutely.
But first, let's break down what we even mean when we say colorectal cancer.
Okay.
So picture your colon, that long and winding part of your digestive system.
Mm-hmm.
It eventually connects to your rectum.
Oh, yeah.
Colorectal cancer can develop anywhere along that pathway.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that we often hear colon cancer and rectal cancer as separate things, but they both fall under this colorectal umbrella.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But are there other types of cancer that can happen in this area too?
There are, yeah,
Okay.
though they're less common.
Okay.
Our source material mentions carcinoid tumors,
Okay.
gastrointestinal stromal tumors,
Oh, wow.
lymphomas, and small cell carcinomas.
So there really is a lot more nuance than people might realize.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got this winding pathway where these cancers can occur.
Yeah.
But how would we even know if something was wrong?
Right.
What are the signs?
Well, some of them might seem really subtle, like changes in your bowel habits. Maybe you have diarrhea or constipation more often.
Okay.
Or you constantly feel like you haven't fully emptied your bowels. These are things that people often dismiss as just an upset stomach.
Yeah.
Or stress.
Totally. I probably just think I ate something bad
Yeah.
or was a little anxious.
Right.
But it sounds those are things we shouldn't ignore.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
There's also fatigue, gas pains,
Oh, okay.
bloating.
Cramps.
So like really general.
Yeah, very general.
discomfort.
And of course, blood in your stool,
Okay.
which can be bright red
Yeah.
or very dark.
Okay. Blood in the stool definitely sounds more alarming.
Right.
But I'm curious, why do these seemingly minor symptoms happen?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What's going on in the colon?
Well, you can imagine your colon's job is to move waste through your system.
Okay.
If there's a tumor growing,
Yeah.
it can block that flow,
Yeah.
leading to those changes in your bowel habits.
Mm-hmm.
The blood is a sign that the tumor might be bleeding,
Okay.
and the fatigue can be a general sign from your body that something's off.
Okay, so these subtle signs could be our body trying to tell us something important.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of risk factors, who should be extra vigilant?
Right.
I know you mentioned it impacts both men and women.
Yes, most people have about a 5% chance of developing colorectal cancer in their lifetime,
Okay.
but that risk goes up significantly after age 50.
Okay.
And it's higher for African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Men are also slightly more likely to develop it than women.
Okay, so age, ethnicity, and gender all play a role.
That's right.
What about family history?
Family history is huge. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that it's not just a myth about a history of colorectal cancer in your family.
Okay.
Even a family history of uterine or ovarian cancer,
Wow.
for example, can increase your risk.
No, okay.
So it highlights how interconnected our health is.
Yeah,
It's important to have open conversations with your doctor about your entire family history,
totally.
not just colorectal cancer.
That's really interesting.
Mm.
I never realized that other cancers in my family could potentially impact my risk for this one.
Yeah.
What about genetics in general?
There are specific genetic syndromes like familial adenomatous polyposis
Okay.
or Lynch syndrome that significantly increase your risk.
Okay.
It's like having a loaded gun in your family's medical history.
Oh, wow.
So awareness is key.
Okay, so genetics can definitely play a role.
Right.
What about the lifestyle choices we make?
Yeah,
Do those factor in?
absolutely. Things like obesity,
Okay.
smoking,
Yeah.
and a diet heavy on red and processed meats
Right.
can all increase your risk.
Okay.
And if you have inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's disease
Right.
or ulcerative colitis, that also ups your chances.
So it sounds like our genes load the gun and our lifestyle choices can pull the trigger.
That's a great way to put it.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the basics of what colorectal cancer is
Yeah.
to recognizing those subtle early warning signs and understanding who's most at risk.
Right.
But I'm curious, how does this cancer actually develop? Is it something that just pops up overnight, or is there a progression?
Well, it often starts with tiny growths on the lining of your colon
Right.
or rectum called polyps. Think of them like a tiny seed in your garden.
Okay.
Most of the time, a seed is harmless.
Right.
But sometimes, with the right conditions, that seed can sprout into something much bigger. That's kind of how polyps work. Most are benign,
Yeah.
but some can turn into something more serious over time.
That's a great analogy. So it's like this gradual process.
It is.
That can sneak up on you.
Exactly. And that brings us to the concept of staging,
Oh, okay.
which helps doctors determine how far the cancer has progressed.
Okay.
But before we dive into those stages, let's take a quick pause
Okay.
and come back to this idea of polyps
Right.
and how they can be detected.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into colorectal cancer.
All right.
Before the break, we were talking about polyps,
Right.
those tiny growths in your colon or rectum. And those polyps are really at the heart of why early detection is so crucial.
Okay, so let's talk about how we catch those polyps before they have a chance to turn into something more serious.
The gold standard for detection is a colonoscopy.
Ah, yes, the colonoscopy.
Yeah,
I know it's not the most glamorous topic,
Right.
but it's so important.
absolutely.
I'll admit the thought of it makes me a little squeamish.
Yeah, I get it.
Can you walk us through what actually happens?
A lot of people feel that way, but honestly, it's not as bad as you might imagine.
Okay.
You're completely sedated during the procedure,
Okay.
so you won't feel a thing.
Okay, that's good.
The doctor uses a thin, flexible tube with a camera on the end
Okay.
to look at the lining of your colon and rectum.
So it's like a little submarine exploring the depths of your digestive system.
Exactly.
That's a good way to put it.
And if they find any polyps during that exploration,
Yeah.
they can remove them right then and there.
So it's not just diagnostic.
Right.
It's preventative, too.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
It is.
And you said this is the gold standard for detection.
It is, yeah. Okay.
Early detection through colonoscopy has a success rate of up to 90%.
Wow, 90%. That's incredible.
It is.
Okay, so considering how effective this is,
Yeah.
when should people start getting colonoscopies?
The general guideline is to start at age 50.
Okay.
However, for African Americans, the recommendation is to start at 45.
Oh, okay.
But, as we talked about earlier, so many factors impact your risk.
Yeah.
So it's really important to talk to your doctor about when you should start,
Okay.
especially if you have any of those risk factors we discussed.
Right, that makes sense. It's about personalized care, not just a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
So we've talked about these polyps that can potentially develop into cancer.
Yes.
And we've talked about the power of early detection with colonoscopy.
Right.
But how do doctors know how serious it is if they do find cancer?
Okay.
I know you mentioned staging earlier.
Yeah, staging is like a roadmap that helps doctors determine how far the cancer has spread
Okay.
and how aggressive it is.
Okay.
Think of it this way.
Imagine a tiny seed planted in the ground.
Okay.
Stage 0 is like that seed just starting to sprout.
Mm-hmm.
It's localized
Okay.
and hasn't spread beyond the surface.
Okay, so that's the best case scenario.
It is.
Catching it super early.
Absolutely. As the stages progress,
Yeah.
it's like that seed growing deeper roots and spreading further out.
So stage, I would be like the roots starting to grow deeper into the soil.
Right.
Okay.
Stage, I mean, the cancer has grown deeper into the wall of the colon or rectum,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still contained in that area.
Okay, so it's becoming more established, but it hasn't spread beyond the original site.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Then with stage 2,
Yeah.
the cancer is getting larger
Hmm.
and might be growing into nearby tissues,
Okay.
but it still hasn't spread to any lymph nodes.
Lymph nodes, those are an important part of the immune system, right?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
They're like little filters
Uh-huh.
that help your body fight off infection.
Okay.
So when cancer reaches the lymph nodes, it has the potential to spread to other parts of the body.
That sounds concerning.
It can be, yeah.
So stage 3 is when it starts to reach those lymph nodes.
Yes, stage 3, it means it's spreading beyond the original site.
Okay.
And then stage 3 is the most advanced stage
Mm-hmm.
where the cancer has metastasized,
Okay.
meaning it has spread to other organs like the liver, lungs, or bones.
Wow, so it's like that seed has now spread its seeds to other parts of the garden.
Exactly. And at that stage,
Yeah.
treatment becomes more complex,
Okay.
but there's still options
Yeah.
to manage the disease
Okay.
and improve quality of life.
So even at the later stages,
Yeah.
There's still hope.
Absolutely, there's always hope.
That's good to hear.
But that's why catching it early is so crucial.
Right.
The earlier you find it, the better your chances of successful treatment.
Okay, so these stages help doctors guide the treatment plan.
Yes.
But how do they even figure out what stage someone is in?
It starts with that colonoscopy we talked about.
Right.
The doctor can see the tumor
Yeah.
and take a biopsy, which is a small sample of the tissue.
So they take that sample and analyze it.
Exactly.
Okay.
They look at it under a microscope
Mm-hmm.
to see what type of cancer cells are present
Okay.
and how aggressive they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they might use imaging scans,
Okay.
like CT scans or MRIs,
Okay.
to get a clearer picture of whether the cancer has spread beyond the colon or rectum.
So it's like putting together a puzzle
Yes.
using all these different pieces of information.
That's a great way to think about it. And once they have that complete picture, they can determine the stage
Okay.
and recommend the most effective treatment.
This is all so fascinating, but a lot to take in.
It is.
It really highlights the importance of being proactive about our health
Absolutely.
and having those open conversations with our doctors.
I agree.
And speaking of being proactive,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. You remember how we talked about different types of colorectal cancer?
Yes.
Not just colon and rectal.
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned some other less common types.
Right.
I have to admit, I'd always just lumped it all together as colorectal cancer.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's more to it than that.
There is.
Okay.
And while colon and rectal cancers are the most common,
Yeah,
it's important to be aware of these other types, even if they're less frequent.
right.
It helps us understand the full spectrum of what we're dealing with.
Okay, so can we do a quick rundown of those other types?
Sure.
Just so our listeners have a sense of what else is out there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One type is carcinoid tumors, which are slow-growing cancers
Oh,
that can arise from hormone-producing cells in the digestive tract.
so those are a bit different from typical colon or rectal cancer.
They are.
Okay.
And then there are gastrointestinal stromal tumors, or GISTs.
Okay.
These develop in the wall of the digestive tract and can be quite aggressive.
Gists. That's a new one for me.
They're not as common, but definitely something to be aware of.
Right.
We also have lymphomas,
Mhm.
which are cancers of the lymph system. And finally, there are small cell carcinomas,
Okay.
which are very rare and aggressive.
Okay, so even within this category of colorectal cancer, there's a lot of variety.
There is.
And it highlights the importance of paying attention to any unusual symptoms
Absolutely.
and getting them checked out.
Yes.
Even if you think they might be nothing,
Right.
early detection is key,
It is.
no matter what type of cancer we're talking about.
Agree.
Now, I know our source material also mentions some new and exciting advancements in treatment and prevention.
It does.
I'm eager to dive into that.
Okay.
But I think we've covered a lot of ground in this section.
We have.
Should we explore those new frontiers?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're back and ready to dive into those new frontiers in treatment and prevention.
Okay.
Let's start with treatment. I know our source material mentioned targeted therapy.
Yes.
What exactly is that, and how does it differ from traditional chemotherapy?
Well, targeted therapy is kind of like a smart bomb for cancer cells.
Okay.
These are drugs that are designed to zero in on specific molecules or pathways
Okay.
that are involved in cancer growth,
Okay.
whereas traditional chemo is more like a shotgun blast.
Oh, okay.
It kills cancer cells, but also damages healthy cells in the process.
So targeted therapy is more precise with fewer side effects.
Exactly. And it's often used in combination with chemo to make treatment even more effective.
Okay.
There are targeted therapies that block blood vessel growth to tumors,
Wow.
essentially starving them of the nutrients they need to grow.
That's incredible.
And there are others that target specific proteins that drive cancer cell growth.
That's amazing. It's like we're finally starting to understand the inner workings of these cancer cells
Right.
and using that knowledge to fight them more effectively.
Exactly.
And then there's immunotherapy, which is a whole other exciting frontier.
Yeah.
This approach harnesses the power of your own immune system to fight the cancer.
Right. You can think of it like this.
Okay.
Your immune system is like an army,
Okay.
and cancer cells are like invaders trying to sneak past your defenses.
Okay.
Immunotherapy is like giving your army specialized training and better weapons
Mm.
to recognize and attack those invaders more effectively.
That's such a great analogy. And how effective has immunotherapy been for colorectal cancer?
Well, it's shown remarkable promise,
Yeah.
especially for certain types of colorectal cancer.
Okay.
There are immunotherapy drugs called checkpoint inhibitors
Okay.
that essentially release the brakes on your immune system,
Wow.
allowing it to attack cancer cells with more force.
That's powerful.
It is.
And are there other types of immunotherapy that are being studied as well?
Yeah, like cancer vaccines
Okay.
that train your immune system to specifically target cancer cells.
It's incredible to think that we might be able to train our own bodies to fight cancer from within.
It is, and the research in this area is moving at lightning speed.
Wow.
There are always new discoveries and clinical trials happening,
That's great.
which gives us a lot of hope for the future.
Speaking of hope for the future, let's shift gears to prevention.
Okay.
What advancements are happening on that front?
Well, as we discussed earlier, genetic testing is becoming more and more important.
Yeah.
By identifying individuals with specific genetic mutations
Okay.
that increase their risk for colorectal cancer,
Right.
we can personalize their screening and prevention strategies.
So it's about understanding who's most at risk and intervening early.
Exactly. Someone with a strong family history of colorectal cancer might start getting screened at 40
Okay.
instead of 50, for example.
Right.
Or they might get screened more frequently.
Good.
And for those with certain genetic mutations,
Yeah.
there might be specific medications or lifestyle recommendations that can help reduce their risk.
It's like we're moving toward a more proactive and personalized approach to healthcare, which is so exciting.
It is. And of course, lifestyle modifications continue to be crucial.
Right.
We know that maintaining a healthy weight,
Yeah.
exercising regularly,
Mm.
and eating a balanced diet
Right.
can significantly reduce your risk of developing colorectal cancer.
It always comes back to the basics.
Right.
But they're basics for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's growing evidence
Okay.
that certain dietary factors,
Okay.
like a high fiber diet,
Yeah.
might have a protective effect against colorectal cancer.
Okay.
So it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, it's also about loading up on the good stuff.
That's a good reminder. And of course, we can't forget about the importance of quitting smoking.
Yes, absolutely.
I know it's a broken record, but smoking is a major risk factor for so many cancers,
It is.
including colorectal
It
cancer.
really is. Quitting smoking is one of the most important things you can do for your overall health.
Yeah.
And it can significantly reduce your risk of developing this disease.
So we've got personalized prevention through genetic testing,
Right.
lifestyle modifications, and these incredible advancements in treatment.
Absolutely.
It feels like we're finally gaining the upper hand in the fight against colorectal cancer.
We are. And it's all thanks to the tireless efforts of researchers, doctors, and scientists who are dedicating their lives to understanding this disease and developing better ways to prevent and treat it.
It's truly inspiring to witness the passion and dedication in this field. And I think it's important to emphasize that knowledge and awareness are key.
I agree.
The more we understand about this disease, the better equipped we are to advocate for our own health and make informed decisions.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions.
Yeah.
Do your research and be proactive about your health.
Right.
Early detection is crucial, and there are so many resources available to support you every step of the way.
Well, folks, that concludes our deep dive into colorectal cancer. We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics to the cutting edge. We hope you've learned something new, gained a sense of empowerment, and maybe even a little bit of hope.
Remember, knowledge is power, and you are your own best advocate. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.
Until next time, keep diving deep